You don't grow by wishing. You grow by building yourself with effort that actually changes you. Before anything improves in your life, something has to shift inside you. Not in a dramatic way, in a real, human way. Maybe you're tired of feeling stuck. Maybe you're tired of starting and stopping. Maybe you know there's a stronger version of you waiting, but you haven't been able to reach it yet. If that feels true, you're in the right place. This audiobook is built for people who want real growth, steady, visible, believable growth. The kind that shows up in your habits, your choices, and the way you carry yourself. Not temporary motivation, not quick fixes, just honest, daily work that shapes a better you. Ask yourself for a moment, what would your life look like if you actually kept the promises you made to yourself? What would change if you pushed through your limits instead of stepping back? This message will help you do exactly that. You will learn how to build discipline, stay consistent, face discomfort, and grow with purpose. If you're ready for growth that lasts, stay here. This is where your stronger self begins. Chapter 1. Build inner strength through steady daily effort. You know, when people talk about building themselves into someone stronger and better, they often look for a single big step that will change their life in a day. But real growth does not happen in a moment. Real growth comes from steady daily effort. It comes from showing up for yourself, even when it feels easier to drift through the day. It comes from doing what you said you would do. It comes from being honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to go. Anyone can wish for change. Anyone can talk about improvement. But building inner strength requires daily work that others do not see. It is quiet work. It is personal work. And it is the kind of work that shapes the person you become. Most people know what they want, but they do not train themselves to stay committed. They get excited for a day or two, and then they fall back into old habits. Inner strength is built when you keep going, even after that excitement fades. When you decide that your future is worth the effort, you begin to grow. You begin to feel a deeper sense of control. You begin to see yourself as someone capable and responsible. And that feeling does not come from one huge moment. It comes from small actions that stack up each day. Think about how your day starts. If you wake up and you move with purpose, you feel different. If you wake up and remind yourself of what you said you would do, you begin shaping your mindset. Daily effort begins at the start of your day. It shapes how you think, it shapes how you behave, and it shapes how you build strength inside yourself. You do not need a dramatic routine. You only need consistent actions. You need to take control of your time. You need to follow through on your commitments. You need to show yourself that you can trust your own word. When you trust your own word, you gain confidence. You gain clarity. You gain direction. Inner strength grows when you face small tasks you normally avoid. It grows when you finish something instead of leaving it undone. It grows when you stop telling yourself that you will try later. When you choose to act now, you train your mind. You teach it that you are serious about your goals. You teach it that you will not run from responsibility. And every time you do this, something inside you gets stronger. You begin to feel more grounded. You begin to feel more stable. You begin to feel more capable of handling the pressure that life brings. A lot of people wait for the perfect moment to start putting effort into their life. They wait for more motivation. They wait for more time. They wait for a better mood. But waiting does not build strength. Action does. And the truth is, action often creates the motivation you were waiting for. When you start, you feel something. It may be small, but it is real. And that feeling gives you energy to keep going. When you put in effort every day, you create momentum, and momentum makes future effort easier. Steady daily effort is not always exciting. Sometimes it feels very simple. Sometimes it feels repetitive, but that repetition is what builds you. You do not build strength by doing something one time. You build strength by doing it again and again until it becomes part of who you are. When your actions become consistent, your life begins to move forward. You start seeing progress in your behavior. You start noticing changes in the way you think. You start feeling more in control of yourself. And that control is one of the strongest feelings a person can have. There will be days when you do not feel like doing the work, days when you feel tired, days when you feel stressed, days when you feel distracted. These days matter the most, because when you push yourself on those days, even with small effort, you teach your mind that you can work through discomfort. You teach it that you will show up even when it is not easy. And that lesson becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who does not quit, someone who stays with the process, someone who honors their goals. This is how inner strength forms. Not through comfort, but through steady effort during uncomfortable moments. People often underestimate how powerful small wins are. When you complete a small task, your mind takes note. When you follow your routine, your mind records it. When you finish what you start, your mind grows more certain that you are dependable. And this dependability toward yourself builds emotional strength. It builds mental toughness. It builds belief in your ability to create change. Many people fail because they look for huge changes instead of small steps. They want big results without daily practice. But the person who wins is the person who shows up every single day, even with small actions. These actions grow into big changes over time. Building inner strength also means being honest about your weaknesses. Everyone has them. No one is perfect. But facing your weaknesses instead of hiding from them is part of daily effort. When you notice that you avoid something difficult, push yourself to face it. When you see yourself wasting time, redirect your actions. When you feel yourself losing focus, bring your attention back to your goals. This honesty gives you power, it gives you control, it gives you a path forward. The more honest you are, the more growth becomes possible. Another key part of steady daily effort is managing your environment. The people around you influence your choices. The places you spend time in affect your focus. The things you watch and listen to shape your behavior. Inner strength grows faster when your environment supports your goals. It grows when you surround yourself with people who encourage growth. It grows when you remove distractions. It grows when you choose activities that support your progress. You build strength not only through effort, but also through smart choices about what you allow into your life. Pay attention to how your body feels during your daily grind. Pay attention to your energy, your sleep, your nutrition, your movement. Inner strength is not only mental, it is also physical. When your body feels healthier, your mind becomes clearer. When your body feels tired, your mind becomes weak. Daily effort means taking care of both. It means moving your body. It means giving yourself rest. It means feeding yourself in a way that supports your goals. These small physical actions support your mental growth. One of the most important parts of building inner strength is patience. Daily effort does not show results right away. Sometimes you will work hard and see nothing change for weeks. But if you stay consistent, your life will shift. You will wake up one day and notice that you handle stress better. You will notice that you do not give up as easily. You will notice that you feel more confident in your ability to shape your life. These changes do not come from sudden moments. They come from steady daily actions that build your character. Inner strength is earned, it is built, it is shaped, and it is developed through effort you give to yourself every single day. If you want to grow, do not chase fast results. Chase steady effort. Chase small progress. Chase discipline. Chase responsibility. And every day you will become a stronger version of yourself, a version that can handle more pressure, a version that can stay focused on goals, a version that can create a better future. You do not need permission, you do not need perfect timing, you only need a decision and daily effort to back that decision. This is how you build yourself with a grind that guarantees growth. Through action, through honesty, through consistency, through effort, not one day, not 2 days, every day. Chapter 2. Confront your fears to strengthen your inner power. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in a person's life. It shapes decisions, limits progress, and holds back potential long before anyone realizes what is happening. Many people avoid their fears because they believe it will keep them safe. But avoidance does the opposite. It weakens confidence, steals opportunities, and keeps a person from becoming who they could be. When you confront your fears, you gain something far greater than relief. You gain inner power. You gain a deeper sense of control over your life. You gain the ability to push forward even when the path feels uncertain. Confronting fear is not about being fearless. It is about choosing to face what scares you so you can grow stronger from it. Fear shows up in many forms. Sometimes it appears as hesitation that stops you from speaking up. Sometimes it feels like nervousness when you want to try something new. Sometimes it feels like pressure in your chest when you need to make a change. And sometimes fear feels like a quiet voice telling you that you are not ready or not capable. These experiences are part of being human. Every person deals with them. The difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is simple. One group confronts fear, the other hides from it. When you start confronting your fears, you begin learning more about yourself. You learn what triggers your doubt. You learn how you behave when you feel uncertain. You learn what excuses your mind creates when it tries to protect you from discomfort. This awareness is powerful because it gives you the ability to make a different choice. Once you recognize the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can tell yourself to take one small step instead of retreating, and that one step begins to shift your inner world. Fear often feels bigger than it really is, because the mind magnifies what it does not understand. When you avoid something, your imagination fills the space with worst-case ideas. But when you confront that fear, you reduce its control. You start to see it for what it is. You realize that the thing you avoided was not as impossible or dangerous as your mind made it seem. The moment you take action, even a small one, the fear loses strength. You begin to understand that you are capable of handling more than you once believed. Confronting fear requires honesty. You must be willing to look at the areas of your life where you hold back. Maybe you are afraid of failing. Maybe you are afraid of judgment. Maybe you are afraid of making the wrong decision. Maybe you fear change. These fears can quietly influence everything you do. But when you acknowledge them, you regain control. You stop letting fear guide your choices. You start guiding yourself. A helpful step in facing fear is asking yourself what you truly want your life to look like. When you imagine the life you want, you will notice that every version of that life requires courage. It requires speaking up. It requires taking risks. It requires trying new things. It requires stepping into situations that feel unfamiliar. When you keep this in mind, confronting fear becomes easier because you realize you are not doing it for the sake of fear itself. You are doing it for your future. Fear becomes easier to face when you break it into small actions. You do not need to jump into the biggest challenge right away. You can begin with something simple. If speaking to new people scares you, start with greeting one person. If making decisions scares you, start by making a small choice today. If trying something new scares you, start with a low-pressure version of it. Every small step builds courage. Every small action prepares you for a bigger one. This is how inner power grows through repeated practice in real situations. When you do something you once feared, you create a new memory that teaches your mind you can handle discomfort. Your body might feel tense at first, your voice might shake, your hands might feel warm, your heartbeat might rise. But these sensations are not signs of weakness, they are signs that you are stepping outside of your old limits. And with each attempt, these reactions soften. Your mind begins to adjust. Your confidence grows. You begin to trust your ability to face life directly. People often forget that courage feels very different from comfort. Courage is active. It requires movement. It requires presence. It requires commitment. And courage feels uncomfortable, especially at first. But in that discomfort, you gain strength that cannot be built any other way. Confidence does not appear out of nowhere. It is built by doing the things you once avoided. It is built by stepping forward even when you feel unsure. And over time, these actions shape a new identity inside you, the identity of someone who can face challenges without running from them. Confronting fear also teaches you discipline. When you face something difficult, you learn how to remain steady under pressure. You learn how to keep your mind focused even when it tries to shift into doubt. This discipline strengthens your emotional stability. You begin to handle stress differently. You become more patient. You become less reactive. You gain the ability to stay calm when others panic. These skills are part of your inner power, and they develop each time you challenge your fears. One of the most freeing moments in personal growth happens when you realize that your fears do not define you. Fear may influence your thoughts, but it cannot control your actions unless you allow it. You have the ability to choose how you respond. You have the ability to take a step forward even when the fear remains. You have the ability to show yourself that you are stronger than the voice of doubt, and every time you do, you expand your potential. When you confront your fears repeatedly, you build a deeper level of self-respect. You begin to see yourself as someone who is capable of growth. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. You begin to see yourself as someone who can be trusted to handle responsibility. This self-respect becomes a foundation for everything you do. It influences your choices. It influences your relationships. It influences your future, and it is built through the simple act of facing what you once avoided. Inner power does not come from pretending to be strong. It comes from acting with strength even when you feel nervous. It comes from doing what needs to be done even when the fear is there. It comes from proving to yourself that you can rise above the mental barriers that once held you back. And with each fear you confront, you unlock a deeper level of strength that shapes your entire life. You build yourself with a grind that guarantees growth by confronting fear directly, not by waiting for courage, but by creating it through action, not by hiding from discomfort, but by stepping toward it, not by doubting yourself, but by learning who you become when you face the things that once controlled you. This is how inner power grows. Through effort, through honesty, through courage, through repeated steps toward a stronger version of yourself.
Chapter 3. Build your character by choosing disciplined effort daily. Character is not something you receive by chance. It is shaped by the choices you make every single day. When you choose disciplined effort, you begin creating a deeper level of strength inside yourself. You teach yourself how to follow through, how to stay focused, and how to show up even when you feel tired or distracted. Character grows when you hold yourself to a higher standard than your mood, your excuses, or your habits. It grows when you decide that who you want to become is more important than what feels easy in the moment. Daily discipline becomes the tool that shapes the way you think, the way you act, and the way you handle life. Most people want strong character, but they do not want the daily work that builds it. They want the confidence, but they do not want the routine. They want the progress, but they avoid the responsibility. The truth is simple. If you want strong character, you must choose disciplined effort every day, not only when you feel inspired, not only when you feel clear, and not only when the path is comfortable. Real character grows when you decide to stay committed, even when no one is watching. It grows when you choose discipline over distraction, consistency over convenience, and growth over excuses. Discipline does not mean pushing yourself without care. It means creating structure in your life that supports your goals. It means deciding what matters and giving your time to those priorities. When you wake up with a clear sense of direction, you begin to feel more stable inside. You feel stronger because you know you are moving towards something meaningful. You feel grounded because your actions match your values. This alignment creates emotional strength, mental stability, and personal confidence, and all of it comes from daily disciplined effort. Building your character begins with small actions. You can start by keeping your word to yourself. When you say you will do something, follow through. When you plan a task, complete it. When you commit to improvement, honor that commitment. These small moments shape your identity. If you break your word to yourself, you weaken your inner trust. If you keep your word, you build inner strength. Every decision becomes a moment of character building. You show yourself who you are through the actions you repeat. Daily discipline teaches you how to control your thoughts and emotions. It teaches you how to pause before reacting. It teaches you how to stay patient when things take longer than expected. It teaches you how to stay calm when pressure rises. As you repeat disciplined actions each day, you gain more control over your behavior. You stop acting from impulse and start acting from intention. This shift gives you power over your life. You stop feeling pulled by circumstances and begin choosing your direction. Character also grows when you complete tasks that are not enjoyable but are necessary. You may not feel excited to study, train, practice, prepare, or improve, but when you choose to do those things anyway, you strengthen the part of yourself that can handle responsibility. You build a mindset that does not collapse under pressure. You prepare yourself for challenges that will come later in life. When difficulty appear, you will already have the discipline to face them because you trained that strength every day. Effort that builds character is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet and consistent. It shows up in how you handle simple things. Do you finish what you start? Do you stay focused on your goals? Do you keep your environment clean and organized? Do you manage your time or waste it? These daily actions send signals to your mind about what type of person you are. If your actions are sloppy, your character becomes weak. If your actions are disciplined, your character becomes strong. You teach yourself how to behave through simple choices repeated every day. Another important part of building character through disciplined effort is setting boundaries. You must learn to say no to behaviors that slow your progress. You must say no to distractions that pull you away from your goals. You must limit habits that drain your energy. When you set boundaries, you protect your growth. You protect your time. You protect your focus, and this protection builds inner control, which is one of the strongest forms of character you can have. A disciplined lifestyle also builds emotional strength. When you learn to control your actions, you learn to calm your emotions. You handle stress more effectively. You stay steady when challenges appear. You become someone who can be trusted to remain clear even when things are uncertain. People with strong character are dependable because they have trained their mind to stay grounded. This stability is a result of discipline practiced every day. The more you discipline your actions, the more control you gain over your emotional responses. Character also grows when you admit your weaknesses without running from them. Self-honesty is a critical part of discipline. If you avoid your flaws, you cannot improve them. If you deny your mistakes, you cannot learn from them. When you face your weaknesses, you gain the power to grow beyond them. You begin to create a stronger version of yourself. Daily discipline helps you meet your weaknesses with clarity. Instead of fear, you learn to adjust your behavior instead of hiding from your struggles. Disciplined effort also shapes how you speak to yourself. When you consistently show up for your goals, your self-talk becomes more supportive. You begin to believe that you are capable. You begin to believe that your effort matters. You begin to believe that you can shape your life. This belief becomes part of your character. It becomes the voice that encourages you to keep going. It becomes the voice that reminds you who you are becoming. And this inner voice grows stronger each time you follow through on your commitments. Time is one of the most valuable tools for building character. How you use your time shows how disciplined you are. If you allow distractions to control your hours, you limit your growth. If you take charge of your schedule, you take charge of your future. Daily effort allows you to use your time with purpose. When you choose disciplined behaviors, you create more space for progress. You do not need more hours, you need more intention. Consistency with your time builds confidence in your direction. Discipline also shapes your relationships. When your character is strong, you become someone others trust. You become someone who follows through. You become someone who communicates clearly. You become someone who shows respect through actions. These qualities improve your connections with others. They help you build relationships based on honesty and responsibility. Strong character strengthens every part of your life because it influences how you show up in every situation. The greatest benefit of choosing disciplined effort daily is that it turns growth into a habit. You no longer rely on motivation. You no longer depend on perfect conditions. You no longer wait for inspiration. You take action because you have built a lifestyle around improvement. This lifestyle shapes your identity. You become someone who can create change. You become someone who does not give up. You become someone who grows intentionally. Character is built through the choices you repeat. If you choose disciplined effort every day, your life begins to rise. You feel more confident. You feel more stable. You feel more in control. You feel proud of who you are becoming. This pride comes from knowing you earned your strength. You did the work, you showed up, you stayed committed. And that daily commitment becomes the foundation of a powerful life. Building character is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It is about choosing effort when you could choose ease. It is about honoring your goals even when no one will notice. If you stay dedicated to disciplined effort each day, you create a life built on responsibility, clarity, progress, and strength. You shape yourself into someone who can handle pressure, overcome challenges, and stay committed to growth. This is how disciplined effort builds character, through daily choices that create the strongest version of you.
Chapter 4. Earn self-respect by keeping small promises. Self-respect is something every person wants, but it is not something you can buy or borrow. It is something you earn through your actions. One of the most powerful ways to build that respect is by keeping the small promises you make to yourself. These promises may look simple, but they shape the way you see yourself. Every time you follow through, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you want to become. And every time you ignore your own word, you weaken that bond. The truth is that self-respect grows when your actions match your intentions.
When you treat your own commitments as valuable, you begin to feel more in control of your life. Many people think self-respect comes from big achievements or rare moments of success, but it actually grows from the small choices you make daily. If you say you will wake up at a certain time and you do it, you feel a small rise in confidence. If you say you will drink more water today and you honor that promise, you feel a sense of control. If you say you will finish a task and you complete it, you feel responsible and capable. These small victories are not trivial. They are the building blocks of a strong self-image. They teach your mind that you can be trusted, and when you trust yourself, your confidence grows in a natural and steady way. Keeping promises to yourself also gives you direction. When you choose a small promise, you create a clear plan for part of your day. You are not floating through the hours without purpose. You have something to follow. This gives your mind structure, and structure supports emotional stability. You feel grounded when you know you are following through on what matters. You feel balanced because your actions align with your goals. This alignment slowly builds the kind of self-respect that cannot be shaken by outside opinions. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with self-respect is that they often break the small promises they make to themselves. They say they will start something tomorrow, and they don't. They promise themselves they will change a habit, and they delay it. They decide to do something simple, then push it aside. Each time this happens, the mind remembers. It collects these moments. And over time, a person begins to feel unsure about their own ability to follow through. They might still make big goals, but deep down they no longer trust that they will stay committed. This inner conflict is one of the main causes of low self-worth. The good news is that this can change the moment you start honoring your small promises again. These promises do not need to be dramatic or heavy. They can be simple commitments that reinforce discipline. You can start with something as small as drinking a glass of water in the morning. You can promise yourself that you will read for 5 minutes. You can commit to cleaning a small part of your room. You can decide to take a 10-minute walk. The size of the promise does not matter. What matters is whether you keep it. When you follow through, you help yourself become someone who finishes what they start. And that kind of person naturally earns self-respect. The process becomes even more powerful when you choose promises that support your growth. Maybe you want to improve your health, so you commit to one daily action that moves you forward. Maybe you want to improve your mindset, so you promise yourself time to reflect or breathe. Maybe you want to develop better habits, so you commit to completing one task that strengthens discipline. When your promises connect to your goals, they become a daily reminder of the life you are trying to build. They keep you focused, they keep you steady, and they keep you improving. Keeping small promises also teaches you how to manage your emotions. When you feel tired or unmotivated, the promise remains there waiting. When you feel stressed, the promise still holds value. When you feel distracted, the promise calls you back. Following through during these moments teaches you how to stay responsible regardless of your mood. This is a major part of self-respect. When you prove to yourself that you can honor your commitments even on hard days, you begin to feel stronger. You begin to feel more mature. You begin to feel capable of handling the challenges life brings. Another important part of keeping promises is learning to speak to yourself with honesty. Many people make excuses when they fail to follow through, and these excuses weaken discipline. But when you admit the truth, that you chose comfort over effort or delay over action, you gain the power to do better next time. Honesty helps you grow. It helps you see your patterns clearly. It helps you understand how to improve. And with this understanding, you can make promises that fit your goals and follow through with more strength. Self-respect deepens when you remove the habit of saying, "I will try." Trying gives you space to back out. It leaves room for uncertainty. Instead, choose language that supports commitment. Say, I will. Say, I'm doing this today. Say, I'm finishing this. When you speak with clarity, your mind responds differently. It recognizes the seriousness behind your words. And this seriousness creates momentum. You begin to act with intention instead of hesitation. As you keep more promises, something powerful happens. You begin to enjoy the feeling of being reliable to yourself. You begin to look forward to completing personal commitments. You begin to feel proud of the consistency growing inside you. This pride is not loud or arrogant. It is quiet and steady. It comes from the sense that you are taking care of your life. It comes from the understanding that you can count on yourself. This feeling becomes a source of inner strength that supports every area of your life. Self-respect earned through small promises also improves your relationships. When you learn to honor your own commitments, you naturally become more reliable with others. You communicate more clearly. You respect their time. You respect their boundaries. You take responsibility for your actions. People begin to trust you because you carry yourself with integrity, and this integrity becomes a reflection of the discipline you practice privately. The important thing to remember is that self-respect is not built overnight. It grows slowly, but it grows consistently when you follow a simple rule. Do what you said you would do, even when it is easy to skip, even when no one else will know, even when the promise seems too small to matter. Each completed promise adds one more layer of strength to your identity. Each one tells your mind that you are someone who can rise above excuses. Each one builds a foundation of trust between your intentions and your actions. The person you become tomorrow depends on the promises you keep today. If you want to strengthen your self-respect, begin with one small commitment and complete it. Then choose another and complete it again. Day after day, these actions will shape your character, your confidence, and your future. You will become someone who knows how to follow through, someone who respects themselves because they have earned that respect through daily actions, someone who builds a life not based on hope alone, but on personal responsibility. This is how you earn self-respect, not through loud declarations, but through steady commitments honored in quiet moments. With each promise kept, you rise. With each promise kept, you grow. With each promise kept, you build a stronger and more confident version of yourself.
Chapter 5. Break mental limits by practicing focused effort. Mental limits are not walls built from anything real. They are formed from past experiences, old beliefs, and moments when you doubted your abilities. These limits grow each time you tell yourself that something is too hard or too far out of reach. But mental limits can be changed, challenged, and replaced. The most effective way to break them is through focused effort. When you train your mind to direct its attention, to stay present, and to give full energy to one task at a time, you begin to discover strength you did not know you had. Focused effort does not just help you complete a task, it helps you push past the ideas that once held you back. Many people underestimate how much their mind drifts during the day. They think they are working hard, but their attention is scattered. They start one thing, jump to another, get distracted, return later, then lose momentum. This fractured energy makes challenges feel bigger and drains confidence. When you practice focused effort, you learn how to give your full attention to one thing. You learn how to stay steady even when your mind wants to wander. You learn how to build discipline by guiding your thoughts instead of letting them run wild. This mental training slowly dissolves the limits you once accepted. To practice focused effort, you must first understand what steals your attention. It might be noise, conversations, your phone, or your own thoughts pulling you into worries and doubts. When you notice these distractions, you learn how to bring your mind back to the present moment. This return builds strength.
Each time you bring your attention back, you gain more control over your thoughts. You begin seeing that your mind does not command you. You command your mind, and that shift changes everything. Focused effort requires intention. You must choose what matters most in the moment. When you decide to give all your energy to one task, your mind becomes sharp. You feel more connected to what you are doing. You feel more aware of your progress. You feel more in tune with your actions. This creates a sense of purpose that lifts your confidence. When you repeat this process daily, your mind becomes stronger and more capable of staying committed. Practicing focused effort is also a way to train patience. Many people give up quickly because they expect fast results. When the task feels challenging, they assume they are not ready or not capable. But focused effort teaches you how to stay with the process long enough to see change. The more you practice this skill, the more your mind adapts. You stop feeling overwhelmed by long tasks. You begin to see them as steps you can handle, and when you handle one step, then another, your mental limits start to fall apart. Another benefit of focused effort is the way it improves your emotional stability. When your attention is scattered, your emotions become unstable. You feel stressed, rushed, or unsure. When you focus, your emotions settle. You feel calmer because your mind is not pulled in multiple directions. You feel more certain because you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. This emotional clarity allows you to face bigger challenges without fear. It also helps you think more clearly, make better decisions, and avoid unnecessary mistakes. Focused effort also builds confidence in your ability to learn. When you stay present, you notice the progress you are making. You notice that you understand things better. You notice that you improve faster. This improvement strengthens your belief in your potential. Many mental limits come from believing you cannot improve. But when you see proof that your effort creates progress, those beliefs lose their power. You begin to understand that you can grow. You can adapt. You can handle more than you once believed. To break mental limits, you must also challenge the thoughts that tell you to stop. These thoughts often appear when something feels unfamiliar or difficult. You might hear your mind say that you are not good enough or that the task is too much. Focused effort helps you override these thoughts by keeping your attention on the action instead of the doubt. When you stay focused, you weaken the influence of negative thinking. You give yourself the chance to push past the first wave of discomfort, and once you pass that point, you begin discovering new levels of strength. Another important part of focused effort is breaking tasks into smaller sections. When something feels large, your mind resists, but when you divide it into smaller steps, your mind relaxes. This approach reduces anxiety and makes progress easier to recognize. As you complete each step with full focus, you build momentum. This momentum carries you forward and supports your growth. Your mental limits shrink as you consistently prove that you can move through challenges one step at a time. Focused effort also strengthens your memory. When your attention is centered, your mind absorbs information more effectively. You remember details, understand patterns, and solve problems faster. This improvement boosts confidence. It gives you a sense of control in areas where you once felt lost. And with better understanding comes more courage to take on new challenges that once felt intimidating. Breaking mental limits through focused effort also changes the way you see obstacles. Instead of viewing them as stopping points, you begin seeing them as training opportunities. Each challenge becomes a moment to strengthen your mind. Each difficulty becomes a chance to sharpen your focus. This shift builds mental resilience. You stop avoiding hard things and start using them to grow. This mindset is what allows you to break limits that once felt impossible. Your environment also influences your ability to practice focused effort. When your space is cluttered or noisy, your mind becomes unsettled. When your environment is organized and calm, your concentration improves. You can take control of this by arranging your space in a way that supports your goal. When your environment aligns with your intentions, your focus becomes stronger. This habit teaches you that you can design conditions that support your growth instead of relying on luck or convenience. One of the most powerful parts of breaking mental limits is recognizing how far you can go when you stop doubting yourself. Many people never reach their potential because they stop at the first sign of difficulty. When you practice focused effort, you step through that difficulty. You learn how to stay calm when things get hard. You learn how to keep going even when you feel uncertain. And each time you do, you build more courage for the next challenge. Your mind is capable of far more than you realize, but you will only discover that strength when you train it. Focused effort is training. Focused effort is practice. Focused effort is the pathway to breaking limitations that have controlled you for years. You do not need to take giant leaps. You only need steady, attentive action. Over time, these actions will open doors you once thought were locked. The more you practice focused effort, the clearer your goals become. The clearer your goals become, the easier it is to take action. The easier it becomes to take action, the faster your limits fall away. This chain reaction transforms your life from the inside out. Breaking mental limits is not about pushing yourself endlessly. It is about directing your energy with intention. It is about choosing what matters and giving yourself fully to it. It is about discovering your real capabilities by staying present, disciplined, and patient. When you build this kind of mental strength, there is nothing you cannot improve, nothing you cannot learn, and nothing you cannot overcome. Your limits begin to disappear. Your confidence grows. Your mind becomes a tool that works for you instead of against you. And this transformation begins with one simple practice. Focused effort, repeated each day, shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, and more capable than ever before.
Chapter 6. Grow your confidence by doing hard things repeatedly. Confidence is not built from comfort. It grows from doing the things that challenge you. Every time you choose something difficult and follow through, you create a new memory that strengthens how you see yourself. Confidence is not about pretending to be strong. It is about proving to yourself, through action, that you can handle difficult moments. When you practice doing hard things again and again, your mind learns a powerful truth. You are capable of much more than you once believed. Most people think confidence appears when life becomes easier, but true confidence forms when you move through your discomfort. When you step into situations that test you, you learn how to handle fear, pressure, frustration, and uncertainty. These experiences are what shape a resilient mindset. Each difficult thing you face, whether big or small, adds another layer of strength to your identity. You slowly build trust in your own abilities, and that trust becomes the foundation of lasting confidence. Doing hard things repeatedly teaches you how to manage the voice in your mind that tries to hold you back. This voice often tells you to stop, slow down, or avoid the challenge. It tells you that you are not ready. It tells you that the task is too much. But each time you push through that resistance, the voice becomes weaker. You begin to see that the fear you once felt was not a sign of inability, but a natural reaction to growth. When you push through fear, you earn confidence that stays with you. Facing hard things also trains your emotional resilience. When you choose something difficult, your emotions react. You may feel nervous, uneasy, or overwhelmed, but when you stay with the task despite the discomfort, your emotions start to settle. You learn how to stay steady when things feel intense. You learn how to keep moving even when the path becomes uncomfortable. This emotional control becomes one of the strongest forms of confidence you can develop. Repeated effort is powerful because it builds familiarity. Something that once felt intimidating slowly becomes manageable. The first time you face a challenge, it feels heavy. The second time you understand it better.
The third time you feel more prepared. Each repetition rewires your mind. Your confidence grows not because the task becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You build a mindset that does not run from difficulty. You develop the habit of leaning in instead of pulling away. Many people avoid hard things because they want to protect their comfort, but comfort does not create confidence. Comfort creates stagnation. When you stay in the same routine without challenge, you stop growing. You stop learning about yourself. You stop expanding your ability. Confidence is built by stepping into areas where you feel uncertain and proving that you can figure it out. This process teaches you more about your potential than any comfort zone ever could. One of the strongest benefits of doing hard things repeatedly is how it reshapes your self-image. If you constantly choose the easier path, your mind begins to believe that you cannot handle anything more. But when you consistently choose the harder path, your mind forms a new identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can handle pressure, responsibility, and challenges. This identity becomes a source of strength in every part of your life, your relationships, your health, your goals, your work, and your personal development. Doing hard things does not mean overwhelming yourself with impossible tasks. It means choosing challenges that push you in a healthy way. You can start small. You can choose something simple but challenging, like speaking up in a conversation or finishing a task you usually avoid. The task itself does not matter as much as the act of choosing difficulty over comfort. When you repeat this choice daily, your confidence expands. As you repeat difficult tasks, you also train your mind to stay focused. Hard things require attention, they require presence, they require commitment. When you practice these qualities, you develop more mental discipline. You become someone who can stay concentrated even when your mind tries to wander. This skill helps you in every area of your life. It makes you more productive. It makes you more reliable. It makes you someone who can handle challenges without falling apart. Doing hard things repeatedly also builds patience. Challenging tasks often take time. They require consistency. They require effort that stretches across days or weeks. When you stay committed for a long period, you strengthen your patience. You stop expecting overnight results. You begin appreciating the process itself. This patience becomes part of your confidence because you no longer panic when progress feels slow. You trust that your hard work will pay off. Another important part of confidence building is letting yourself make mistakes. When you face something difficult, mistakes are natural. They show you what needs improvement. They guide your growth. They teach you resilience. Mistakes are not proof that you are incapable. They are proof that you are pushing beyond your limit. When you embrace mistakes as part of the journey, you remove the fear that often stops people from trying. With each attempt, you become more comfortable with learning through action. As you keep doing hard things, you start noticing changes in your behavior. You stop hesitating as much. You start acting more decisively. You stop avoiding tasks that once intimidated you. You begin approaching challenges with curiosity instead of fear. These shifts may be subtle at first, but over time they become a natural part of who you are. Confidence becomes your default state because you have earned it through consistent effort. Another benefit of repeating difficult actions is the strength it gives your mind during unexpected challenges. Life is unpredictable. Problems appear without warning. When you are used to facing difficulty, you respond differently. You stay calmer. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. You do not crumble under pressure because your mind is trained to handle tension. This kind of confidence is incredibly valuable. It helps you navigate life with stability and strength. Doing hard things repeatedly also builds a deeper level of pride in your progress. This pride is not about showing off. It is about knowing you have pushed yourself beyond old limits. It is about recognizing the effort you have invested. It is about seeing evidence of your own strength. This pride supports your confidence because it is built on truth, not on hope. You know what you are capable of because you have lived through it. Focused challenges also help you develop self-respect. When you willingly choose hard tasks and complete them, you treat yourself with dignity. You hold yourself to a higher standard. You take responsibility for your growth. This self-respect becomes part of your personality. It shapes how you move through the world. It influences your decisions. It strengthens your relationships, and it deepens your confidence even further. One of the most powerful moments in building confidence comes when you notice you are no longer afraid of challenges that once controlled you. The fear that felt heavy becomes manageable. The tasks that felt impossible become familiar. The situations that made you doubt yourself become opportunities for growth. This transformation happens through repetition, through doing hard things every day until they lose their power over you. Confidence built through repeated challenge is strong and lasting because it is based on real experience. You did not read about it. You did not imagine it. You did not hope for it. You earned it, and because you earned it, no one can take it from you. Your life changes when you make difficulty your teacher, when you embrace challenges instead of avoiding them, when you move through discomfort instead of running from it, when you push yourself daily until your mind understands that it can handle far more than it once believed. This is how confidence grows, not by waiting for courage to appear, but by creating it through consistent action. When you do hard things repeatedly, you become stronger, calmer, and more capable. You stop doubting yourself. You stop holding back. You start trusting your own strength, and that trust becomes the foundation of the unshakable confidence you carry into every part of your life.
Chapter 7. Strengthen your potential by improving one skill daily. Your potential is not something fixed or predetermined. It grows each day you choose to improve. When you focus on developing one skill daily, even in a small way, you begin building a foundation that strengthens everything you do. You start shaping your abilities one piece at a time, and this steady progress becomes a powerful force that moves your life forward. Improving one skill daily is not about chasing perfection. It is about committing to gradual growth that shapes a stronger and more capable version of you. Most people underestimate how much they can change in 1 year. They avoid starting because the big picture looks overwhelming. They want massive progress, but forget that big progress comes from the small steps repeated day after day. When you choose one skill to improve daily, you simplify your growth. You remove the pressure of trying to do everything at once. You give your mind one clear target. This clarity helps you stay focused and consistent, which is the real secret to lasting growth. Improving one skill each day builds discipline in a natural way. When you know what you are working on, you waste less time. You are less distracted. You begin organizing your time in a smarter way because you understand the value of your efforts. As you repeat this habit, it becomes easier to stay consistent. You start seeing yourself as someone who takes growth seriously. This identity strengthens your confidence and encourages you to keep going, even on days when motivation feels low. This approach also helps you become more patient with your progress. When you improve one skill at a time, you understand that growth is a process. You stop expecting instant results. You start valuing the small improvements that build your future strength. This mindset shift reduces frustration and keeps you steady when challenges appear. Patience becomes easier to practice when you see yourself improving every day, even if the change is small. As you continue improving one skill daily, your mind becomes sharper. You learn how to concentrate for longer.
You learn how to break tasks into manageable parts. You learn how to push through moments of boredom or difficulty. These mental habits strengthen your ability to learn faster. You become more capable of adapting to new situations because your brain is used to daily practice. This mental sharpness is one of the biggest benefits of consistent skill improvement. Another important part of this daily practice is the pride you feel when you see progress. When you improve a skill, you create evidence that your hard work matters. You feel more confident because your effort creates visible change. This sense of progress builds motivation from within. You no longer rely on outside encouragement because you can see your own growth. The pride you feel from daily improvement becomes fuel for even greater effort. Improving one skill daily also helps you understand yourself better. You begin recognizing your strengths. You begin identifying the areas that need more attention. You learn how you respond to challenges. You learn what type of practice works best for you. You learn how much time you need to understand something fully. This self-awareness makes your growth more strategic. You stop guessing and start growing with intention. Skill improvement also strengthens your patience with the learning process. When you practice every day, you begin to see that mastery is not based on talent alone. It is based on consistent effort. You uncover the truth that many people overlook. Skill improves faster when you keep working on it, even when you feel tired or distracted. This understanding helps you stay committed during slow progress. You trust the process because you see proof of your improvement each day. Daily skill improvement also builds resilience. When you face a difficult skill, you experience frustration. You experience confusion. You experience moments of doubt. But each time you continue practicing despite these feelings, you strengthen your ability to stay focused under pressure. You learn how to push through mental discomfort. You learn how to keep trying even when the results are not immediate. This resilience becomes valuable in every part of your life. As you improve one skill daily, you begin noticing how your efforts affect your mindset. You start thinking more positively about your ability to grow. You begin seeing challenges as opportunity. You start believing in your potential because you have real proof of your progress. This belief shapes your identity and increases your confidence. Confidence built from skill improvement is strong because it is based on consistent action, not wishful thinking. Improving one skill each day also helps you build momentum. Momentum is powerful. Once you build it, growth becomes easier. You begin waking up with more purpose. You feel excited about your progress. You start noticing how your new skills help you solve problems faster. You begin to feel more prepared for new challenges. This momentum carries you forward even when life becomes stressful or busy. Another important benefit of improving one skill daily is how it changes your relationship with time. You begin using your time more wisely because you know that each day matters. You no longer waste hours on activities that do not support your growth. You become more intentional with your time because you understand how valuable each day is. This shift in how you use time becomes one of the strongest factors in your overall success. Daily practice also deepens your ability to stay consistent. Many people struggle with consistency because they try to do too much at once. But when you focus on one skill, consistency becomes easier. You know what to do. You know why it matters. You know how to measure your progress. And because the task is simple, you remove the mental pressure that often causes people to quit. This simple approach builds the consistency that supports lifelong growth. Improving one skill each day also strengthens your emotional stability. When you feel yourself improving, you carry a sense of inner balance. You feel grounded because you know you are becoming better. This emotional stability helps you handle stress, conflict, and uncertainty with more clarity. You feel more in control of your life. You stop reacting impulsively because your mind is trained through daily practice. One of the most valuable parts of building your potential this way is the long-term effect. If you improve one skill daily, imagine where you can be in a month. Imagine where you can be in a year. Imagine where you can be in 5 years. The long-term impact is extraordinary. While others stay stuck in excuses or distractions, you will have built a foundation of skills that make you stand out. You will have created abilities that open new opportunities. You will have developed potential that continues growing with each day of effort. Your potential increases every time you choose to improve, even in a small way. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need massive motivation. You only need a commitment to improvement that you honor daily. When you follow this simple rule, improve one skill each day, you slowly transform your life. You build a stronger mind, a stronger identity, and a stronger sense of purpose. Your potential is waiting to grow, and daily improvement is the key. By choosing to practice one skill each day, you prove to yourself that growth is possible. You gain confidence, resilience, clarity, and discipline. You create momentum that pushes you forward, and over time you shape yourself into someone capable of achieving much more than you ever imagined. This is how you strengthen your potential, not through giant leaps, but through steady improvement made daily, shaping you into a stronger and more powerful version of yourself.
Chapter 8. Push your mind to embrace long-term growth. Long-term growth begins in the mind. Before anything changes in your life, something must change inside your thinking. Most people want improvement, but they want it fast. They want the result without the journey. They want progress without patience. But long-term growth requires a different mindset. It asks you to think beyond today. It asks you to stretch your perspective. It asks you to train your mind to look past quick rewards and focus on who you are becoming over time. When you push your mind to embrace long-term growth, you give yourself the chance to build a life that is stable, meaningful, and strong. The mind naturally prefers short-term comfort. It likes easy choices, familiar routines, and predictable outcomes. That is why long-term growth feels uncomfortable at first. It challenges your usual patterns. It requires you to think differently about success. It requires you to step away from instant gratification and choose actions that might not feel rewarding right away. This shift is difficult, but it is also powerful. It teaches your mind how to see value in effort, commitment, and consistency. It shows you that growth is not a single moment, but a continuous process. One of the first steps to embracing long-term growth is learning how to manage your expectations. Many people quit because they expect big results too soon. They get discouraged when the progress is slow. They feel frustrated when things take longer than planned. But growth rarely follows a perfect timeline. It unfolds in ways that test your patience. It moves you forward at a pace that strengthens your character. When you push your mind to accept this, you begin understanding that slow progress is still progress. You stop giving up halfway. You stay with the process long enough to see real change. Another part of long-term growth is learning how to redirect your focus. The mind loves distraction. It jumps from one idea to another. It gets bored when things do not change quickly. But distraction delays growth. When you teach your mind to stay centered on your long-term goals, you build a deeper level of commitment. You stop chasing every new impulse. You start investing your time wisely. You begin choosing activities that support the future you want. This focused direction becomes the backbone of lasting success. To push your mind toward long-term growth, you must also build a strong relationship with discomfort. Growth rarely happens in comfortable moments. It happens when you stretch yourself. It happens when you do something new.
It happens when you step into situations that feel unfamiliar. The more you practice facing discomfort, the easier it becomes to stay committed to long-term goals. You train your mind to understand that discomfort is not danger. It is a sign of progress. It is evidence that you are reaching beyond your old limits. Long-term growth also requires you to think about your habits differently. Your daily habits shape your future, whether you realize it or not. Small actions repeated every day create long-lasting results. When you build habits that support growth, you program your mind to act automatically in ways that strengthen your life. You no longer depend on motivation alone. You rely on the systems you built. This stability gives you the power to stay committed even on difficult days. Another powerful part of embracing long-term growth is learning how to measure progress in healthier ways. Instead of waiting for dramatic results, you begin noticing small improvements. You notice how your mindset becomes stronger. You notice how your choices become wiser. You notice how your reactions become calmer. These changes might be subtle, but they are important. They show you that your effort is working. They keep you energized. They help you stay patient. When you celebrate these small wins, your mind becomes more supportive of long-term effort. One key shift you must make is learning to think beyond the present moment. You must ask yourself where your current actions will lead in a month, a year or 5 years. When you think this way, your decisions change. You start valuing consistency more than instant pleasure. You choose activities that create long-lasting benefits. You stop wasting time on things that offer no real growth. This long-term view becomes a guide that keeps your mind aligned with your future goals. Another important part of long-term growth is staying flexible. Growth does not always follow a straight path. Sometimes you need to adjust your plan. Sometimes you need to try a different approach. Sometimes you need to slow down and regain your strength. When your mind understands that flexibility is part of growth, you stop feeling discouraged when things change. You become more adaptable. You become more resilient. You learn how to stay focused on your long-term goals even when the journey shifts. To push your mind toward long-term growth, you must also take responsibility for your choices. It is easy to blame delays on circumstances, people or conditions, but long-term growth requires ownership. You must be honest with yourself about the decisions you make. You must recognize when you are holding yourself back. You must admit when you are slipping into old habits. This honesty strengthens your discipline. It gives you control over your actions, and it builds maturity that supports long-term success. Your environment also plays a role in shaping your mindset. If you surround yourself with distraction, negativity, or people who avoid growth, your mind becomes influenced by that energy. But when you place yourself in environments that support discipline, learning and improvement, your mind adapts. It absorbs the behaviors it sees. It grows stronger, because the space around you encourages growth. This is not about perfection. It is about placing yourself where growth feels natural instead of forced. Long-term growth becomes easier when you learn how to manage your emotional reactions. Progress often involves setbacks. These setbacks can trigger doubt, frustration, or discouragement. But when you train your mind to stay calm, you gain power. You learn how to respond instead of react. You learn how to stay steady instead of panicking. This emotional maturity helps you stay committed to your goals even when things feel challenging. Pushing your mind toward long-term growth also teaches you how to trust yourself more deeply. When you commit to long-term goals and follow through day after day, you begin seeing proof of your own reliability. You see that you can stay dedicated. You see that you can overcome challenges. You see that you can handle the seasons of slow progress. This trust strengthens your confidence and motivates you to continue growing. As you continue embracing long-term growth, your life begins to change in meaningful ways. You become more focused. You become more disciplined. You become more patient. You become more intentional. These qualities shape everything you touch. They influence your health, your relationships, your goals, your decisions, and your future. Long-term growth becomes a lifestyle, not a temporary effort. What you build over time becomes stronger than anything built quickly. When you push your mind to embrace long-term growth, you create a foundation that supports you for years. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop doubting. You start evolving into a person who grows with stability and purpose. And once your mind understands the power of long-term growth, nothing can stop your transformation. You simply keep growing, keep improving, and keep building the future you know you deserve.
Chapter 9. Choose actions that develop your strongest self. Becoming your strongest self is not something that happens by accident. It is built from the choices you make every day. Your actions shape your identity. They define your habits. They influence your mindset, and they determine how far you grow. When you choose actions that support your strongest self, you begin creating a life that reflects discipline, clarity, courage, and responsibility. This process is not about perfection. It is about making decisions that help you rise, instead of decisions that hold you down. Every choice becomes a piece of the person you are becoming. Your strongest self is not the version that appears only when life is easy. It is the version that shows up when things get difficult. It is the version that stays committed when you feel tired. It is the version that keeps moving even when results come slowly. To develop this version of yourself, you must choose actions that challenge you. You must choose actions that stretch your limits. You must choose actions that require you to show up with intention instead of drifting through your days. These choices may not always feel comfortable, but they build the strength you need to grow. One of the first steps in choosing actions that develop your strongest self is knowing what you want your life to look like. When you know your direction, it becomes easier to choose the right actions. Without direction, your choices become random. You move without purpose. You chase distractions instead of progress. But when you know the type of person you want to become, your decisions become more focused. You start asking yourself whether your actions support or weaken your growth. This awareness transforms your behavior and gives your days more meaning. Strong actions often begin with simple decisions. You decide to take care of your health. You decide to stay disciplined with your routine. You decide to use your time wisely. You decide to work on goals that matter. These small decisions shape your character. They create habits that reinforce strength. They help you become someone who acts with intention rather than emotion. Choosing actions that strengthen you does not require drastic changes. It requires consistency in the choices that support your growth. When you consistently choose better actions, you begin noticing changes in how you feel about yourself. You feel more in control of your life. You feel more confident in your decisions. You feel more prepared for challenges. This inner stability is a sign that you are developing your strongest self. Strong people are not fearless, but they choose actions that help them handle fear. Strong people are not perfect, but they choose actions that help them improve. Strength is not a trait you are born with. It is a trait you build through the choices you repeat. Choosing actions that develop your strongest self also means refusing actions that weaken you. You must learn to say no to distractions that pull you away from your goal. You must avoid habits that drain your energy. You must step away from behaviors that add nothing to your growth. When you choose not to engage in self-sabotaging actions, you protect your progress. You protect your focus. You protect your future. This self-control becomes a powerful tool in shaping your strongest self. Another important part of this process is learning how to take responsibility for your behavior. When you blame circumstances for your choices, you lose power. When you blame others for your actions, you weaken your ability to change. But when you take responsibility, you gain control. You understand that your growth depends on you,
This sense of responsibility helps you choose actions that support your goals instead of relying on excuses. Responsibility builds maturity, and maturity strengthens your character. As you consistently choose actions that develop your strongest self, you begin building a lifestyle that supports your growth. Your environment changes, your habits change, your mindset changes. You start seeking out activities that challenge you. You become more curious. You become more driven. You begin surrounding yourself with people who inspire you instead of those who hold you back. These shifts create a foundation for long-term growth. Choosing strong actions also requires you to face things you often avoid. Avoidance weakens confidence. Avoidance increases fear. Avoidance creates stress. But when you take action on things you once avoided, you grow. You build courage. You develop resilience. You teach your mind that challenges are not threats. They are opportunities. Each avoided task that you finally face becomes a moment of progress. Each difficult step you take builds more self-respect. Over time, these repeated actions transform your perception of your own strength. To develop your strongest self, you must choose actions that align with discipline. Discipline requires consistency. It asks you to act even when you do not feel motivated. It asks you to stay committed when no one is watching. When you choose disciplined actions daily, you strengthen your willpower. You sharpen your focus. You become less influenced by temporary emotions. Discipline is the backbone of strength, and every disciplined action adds another layer to the foundation of your strongest self. Another important part of choosing strong actions is learning to think long-term. When you make decisions only for short-term comfort, you sacrifice future growth. But when you make decisions with your future self in mind, your actions become more meaningful. You start choosing habits that build your future instead of habits that provide temporary relief. This shift in perspective helps you stay committed even during slow progress. You understand that small actions today create big results later. This understanding strengthens your patience. Choosing actions that develop your strongest self also means taking care of your emotional health. You must learn how to manage stress in a healthy way. You must learn how to communicate your feelings. You must learn how to face emotional challenges instead of suppressing. Emotional strength is a major part of becoming your strongest self, and your actions must support it. Taking time to reflect, understand your emotions, and make decisions with clarity helps you stay balanced and grounded. Your strongest self is also shaped by your willingness to grow beyond your comfort zone. When you choose actions that demand effort, you expand your abilities. You learn new skills. You build endurance. You become more adaptable. Each time you stretch your limits, you gain more confidence in your potential. You begin to see that growth is not something to fear but something to pursue. This mindset unlocks doors that were once closed. It gives you courage to take on new opportunities. Choosing actions that build your strongest self also develops your sense of purpose. When you act with meaning, you feel more fulfilled. You feel more connected to your goals. You feel more motivated to keep improving. Purpose is powerful because it gives your actions depth. It reminds you why your effort matters. It helps you stay committed even when the journey becomes difficult. Purpose turns ordinary actions into meaningful progress. Over time, the actions you choose shape the identity you carry. You become someone who acts with strength, someone who follows through, someone who takes responsibility, someone who grows with intention. This identity becomes a source of pride. It becomes a reminder of how far you have come. It becomes a guide for how you continue to grow. Your strongest self is built one choice at a time. It grows from the actions you choose each morning. It develops from the discipline you practice each day. It strengthens from the challenges you face each week. When you commit to choosing actions that support your growth, your life transforms. You feel more confident, more stable, and more capable. You begin walking with a sense of purpose that others can see. You become someone who leads with strength and lives with intention. This is how you develop your strongest self, by choosing actions that support your growth, protect your progress, and shape your character day after day. Each choice matters, each action builds, and with enough consistent effort, you become the strongest version of yourself, built from decisions you made with courage, clarity, and commitment.
Chapter 10. Build lasting growth by repeating productive behaviors. Lasting growth does not come from one big effort or a sudden burst of motivation. It comes from the behaviors you choose to repeat. When you repeat productive actions day after day, you build a kind of strength that stays with you for life. These behaviors become part of your identity. They shape how you think, how you move, how you respond to challenges, and how you make decisions. You grow not because you worked hard once, but because you worked with intention again and again. Repetition builds mastery. Repetition builds confidence. Repetition builds the type of growth that never fades. Most people start strong, but struggle to stay consistent. They try something for a few days, then stop when it feels difficult or boring. They expect transformation to feel exciting. But real transformation comes from showing up even when the excitement fades. If you want lasting growth, you must be willing to repeat the behaviors that move your life forward, even on the days when your motivation is low. This persistence is what separates temporary change from permanent growth. When you choose productive behaviors and repeat them, you are teaching your mind that improvement is not a temporary choice, it is a lifestyle. Repeated productive behavior also teaches you how to trust yourself. When you follow through consistently, you build a deeper level of self-belief. You prove to yourself that you can stay disciplined. You show yourself that you can be counted on. You begin seeing yourself as someone who finishes what they start. This trust becomes a powerful foundation for future goals because you no longer doubt your ability to stay committed. You know you can rely on your own effort. That confidence is earned through consistent action, not through wishful thinking. Another reason repetition creates lasting growth is the way it strengthens your habits. Every behavior you repeat becomes easier. The mind begins to understand the pattern. The body becomes familiar with the routine. Your reactions become automatic. When productive behaviors turn into habits, you no longer need to force yourself to do them. You simply do them because they have become part of how you live. This automatic discipline creates stability in your life. It removes the daily battle of deciding whether to do what you know is good for you. Your habits take over and your growth continues without constant struggle. Repeating productive behaviors also sharpens your focus. You learn how to stay committed to one task for longer periods. You learn how to move through challenges without getting lost in distractions. You learn how to direct your energy in ways that support your goals. This focus builds mental strength. It helps you tune out noise. It helps you stay centered on what matters. Every time you repeat a productive behavior, you are training your mind to value progress over distraction. Over time, this becomes one of your greatest advantages. Your productivity improves not because you work harder, but because you work smarter. When you repeat certain behaviors each day, you develop routines that save time and reduce stress. You begin to understand what works for you. You understand what slows you down. You learn how to design your day in a way that supports your growth. These routines help you maintain stability when life becomes busy or stressful. They keep you grounded. They give you a sense of control, and they help you keep improving without feeling overwhelmed. Repeating productive behaviors also builds emotional resilience.
When you show up every day, you gain experience in dealing with frustration, boredom, and discomfort. These emotions no longer intimidate you because you have trained yourself to act even when they appear. You learn how to move through them without letting them control your decision. This emotional control becomes a defining part of your character. It helps you stay steady in situations where others crumble. It allows you to continue growing even when life feels challenging. Another powerful effect of repeating productive behaviors is the way it shapes your identity. You begin seeing yourself differently. You stop identifying with old habits. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gives up easily. You stop believing that you are limited by your past. Your identity slowly shifts as your actions become more consistent. You become someone who values growth, responsibility, and stability. And once your identity changes, your entire life begins to rise to match that new standard. Lasting growth also requires patience. Productive behaviors often feel small in the moment. They may not give immediate results. They may feel repetitive or simple. But these small actions stack up over time. They build momentum slowly but steadily. When you look back after weeks or months of consistent behavior, you begin to see the transformation clearly. You realize that the change did not happen through one big moment. It happened through daily effort. This slow growth becomes deeply rewarding because you know you earned it through persistence. Another important part of repeating productive behavior is learning how to stay flexible without losing discipline. Some days will be harder. Some days you will have less time. Some days you may need to adjust your routine. Flexibility is not a sign of weakness. It is part of long-term growth. Flexibility allows you to keep going even when conditions are not perfect. It helps you avoid the trap of all or nothing thinking. It reminds you that consistency is not about perfection. It is about staying committed even when the day looks different. When you repeat productive behaviors, you strengthen your ability to learn. Practice improves skill. Practice deepens understanding. Practice increases clarity. Even if you only improve a little each day, these small gains combine into significant progress. You begin moving through life with more confidence because you know you are improving steadily. You no longer feel stuck. You no longer feel uncertain about your path. Each repeated behavior becomes a step that moves you closer to your strongest self. Your environment also influences your ability to repeat productive behaviors. When you surround yourself with distractions, your behaviors become inconsistent. But when you create an environment that supports your goals, repetition becomes easier. You can design your space in a way that encourages productivity. You can limit things that pull your attention away from growth. You can place reminders in your environment that help you stay committed. This creates a supportive atmosphere that allows your productive behaviors to become routine. As you continue repeating productive behaviors, your results begin to transform the way you see the future. You begin believing in long-term progress. You begin seeing how consistency creates possibility. You begin recognizing that you can achieve any meaningful goal with steady effort. This belief strengthens your ambition. It helps you dream bigger. It helps you set goals that once felt out of reach. Because now you see that you have the discipline to get there. One of the most powerful aspects of repeating productive behaviors is the momentum you create. Once you start, it becomes easier to continue. One productive day leads to another. One small win leads to the next. You begin feeling proud of your discipline. You start enjoying the progress you make. This momentum becomes a source of motivation that keeps you moving forward naturally. You no longer rely on bursts of excitement because your daily behaviors have created a rhythm that supports growth. Eventually, your repeated behaviors become part of who you are. You no longer force yourself to improve. You grow because it is your natural state. You no longer struggle to stay disciplined. Discipline becomes part of your identity. You no longer fear challenges. You face them with confidence because you trust your repeated effort. This is how lasting growth is built. Not through temporary bursts of motivation, but through steady repetition of productive behaviors that strengthen your mind, your habits, and your character. Each repeated action shapes your future. Each repeated choice moves your life forward, and as you continue this path, you become someone who grows consistently, confidently, and intentionally. A person built through daily decisions that reflect your highest potential.